What is up, dudes? And lady dudes. Alright, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, we've got updated Evil Eye. It's been a couple months since I've done an Evil Eye deck profile. I've always been a huge fan of this deck. I always think that it works kind of cool. And it feels like one of those decks that could get like random support. Also, it's one of those decks that kind of works off of just one normal summon with Surziel, so potentially combining it with something like Eldritch could be cool. We've seen some weird builds like that, but that's not what we're doing today. Today is just pure Evil Eye. I don't even know what the last build looked like. I don't like to look at my old builds just to make them different for no reason. I like to build them the way I think they should be built at that given time, and I don't want to be affected by stuff like that. So, without further ado, let's just jump into it, alright? Starting off with our monsters, we've got 3 copies of Surziel, Watcher of the Evil Eye, and 1 copy of Medusa, Watcher of the Evil Eye. I don't think I was playing Medusa before. She's fine. I don't think she's amazing. I don't think she's terrible. I think she's okay. But I do like having her for like grindier matches, being able to go into her on turn 2 or later, just to be able to get something back from grave. We do play a good amount of like Evil Eye 1-ofs, so being able to get those back after you used them once could be pretty clutch off of Medusa. And we know Surziel. He's the best starter in the deck. He is your Stratos. He is awesome. He's Stratos combined, and he's also a walking disruption. So you gotta love him. Then for the rest of the Evil Eye monsters, I'm on 3 copies of Basilius, Familiar of the Evil Eye, and 1 copy of Cato Blepas. Blepas? Cato Blepas. Cato Blepas. Familiar of the Evil Eye. What is this thing's name? Whatever. Yeah, these are your extenders. Basilius is really awesome. If you just open any Evil Eye monster with it, you summon him, he dumps any Evil Eye, I believe just spell or traps, not Evil Eye card, yeah, from deck to grave. That's either it's usually gonna be one of your 2 equip spells, and then you get to do stuff from there. And then Cato Blepas. I built this deck originally, and then I was doing a ton of test hands, because that's what I do when I build decks for the channel. And I had a bunch of test hands where I was like, man, if I just had Cato Blepas in the deck, I could search him, dump him for Gorgonio engrave, search another spell, and then he just revives himself anyway. And I'm like, man, I should probably just play him. I mean, yeah, we don't play that many normal summons in the deck, so he doesn't clog that way. And if you draw him, all you need to do is find any way to put Gorgonio in the grave, and boom, you're making your value back off of Cato Blepas. So totally fine. That's our 8 Evil Eye monster lineup. I used to play this much smaller, but I think the deck would struggle with consistency issues when I wasn't playing as many monsters, because you would just draw like no monsters and just nothing but like spell and trap disruptions in the form of spell and traps, and it was too clunky. But now we definitely see a lot more monsters than we used to. And then for the rest of the monsters here, just 3 Ash and 3 Veiler. The deck needs to be able to go second if need be. I know that Gamma and Nibiru and stuff are like some of the better hand traps right now with like Dragon Link running around, but this deck doesn't really support, like, this is a control deck. You're trying to keep a monster on field at all times. Like, this deck doesn't support playing something like Gamma. You never want to Nibiru away your own monsters, like stuff like that. So I'm playing the more simple hand traps. It is what it is. This deck is already, I wouldn't even say is like a competitive deck like that. I mean, this is, in my opinion, one of the most competitive ways you can play the deck, but still, it's just not there ceiling-wise. It's too reliant on the equip spells, but it's still a really cool, fun strategy regardless, especially if you like control decks. So we're keeping it simple, but we still wouldn't be able to go second. We don't want to just auto-lose to combo decks going second, so keeping those in the main. And then for the spells, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Evil Eye Domain Pareidolia. Also throw the Terraforming in there, so 4 copies of that. I'm on 2 copies of Selene, 2 copies of Gorgonio, 1 copy of Awakening, 1 copy of Reemergence, and 1 copy of Confrontation. Going down the line here, you gotta max out on this card. This card is just Surziel, and as I said before, Surziel is our best starter, so we always want to open that. It can also search Basilius or Cato Blepas to be extenders in certain hands, and then it's just good. Like, you gotta max out on that. I'm going on a 2-in-2 ratio for the equips here. This is debatable, and I definitely struggle with this, but you really don't want to open too many. It's not bad to open them, especially if you just go normal summon Surziel, get Ashed, Impermanence, Veilered. Okay, get negated by still have Surziel. How about I just go hard equip a Selene or a Gorgonio from hand? okay, now my Selene, or now my Surreal is a disruption. My opponent's -1 out of the hand. I've still got a disruption my opponent's got to play through. Not the worst thing in the world. So just kind of playing through disruption, these guys can be pretty good at. But 2 and 2 feels fine. I mean, that's still 4 copies, right? Then we play the Awakening and the Reemergence. These are kind of like other spell and trap extenders. Reemergence just giving you the 2 tokens, which is really cool to just immediately go into the Link 2 Evil Eye monster, which is awesome. And Awakening can just pull any of your Evil Eyes out of the deck if you have Selene, but otherwise it's Reborning from grave or summoning from hand. So just a good extender, but you don't want to like hard draw them because they need to be drawn like with specific hands. So I play them at 1 and 1 so that I can search them when I want to go for that kind of play. And it's been working out fine for me. Like, I'm not drawing them too much. When I do draw them, hopefully you're fairly often drawing them with a hand that I can dump them to search something else anyway. So not a big deal, not clunking up. And they've been good. Yeah, and then Confrontation. This is just like your out to Mystic Mine. This is a deck that like otherwise does not have a main deck out to Mystic Mine, other than like if you just already had a like Retribution set to negate the Mystic Mine, or like a Judgment set. And so this is nice to have just that, and also it banishes spells and traps, so it's also really good in the Eldritch matchup. I would almost consider playing like 2 or 3 of this in the or 1 or 2 of this in the side as well, because like why play Cosmic Cyclone when you can just play 3 of this? It's searchable in archetype, and this just like beats Eldritch. If you resolve like 2 or 3 of these, like Eldritch's engine just like does not do anything to you. So it's pretty cool. And then for the rest of the spells, the more generic stuff are on 3 copies of Extravagance, because this deck really uses like 1 card in the extra deck. You'll see when we get there. And then 1 copy of Called, because it's at 1 now, but I still think it's a good card. Getting Ashed on Surreal if you don't have an equip in hand is really annoying, so yeah. Or Veiled too. So yeah, just play this and then this, no big deal. Like, pretty self-explanatory. I really like Extravagance, man. Like, if you can play a card like Extravagance in any deck, I highly recommend it. It's just one of those cards. It's like, if your opponent has an Ash, they have to throw it at Extravagance. It just baits that initial hand trap without committing anything to the field, without committing your normal summon, without doing anything else. So you're like daring them to have a second hand trap, and I think that's really worth a lot at this point in Yu-Gi-Oh! All right, and then for the Evil Eye traps, we're just on 1 defeat and 1 retribution. I know it's only 1 and 1. I've played more than these in the past. Going first, you might want to play 1 or 2 retribution in the side. That way, just like, you know, Lightning Storm's coming in, Evenly Matched is coming in for your opponent. Like, these huge haymakers, Harpy's Feather Duster is coming in. So if you want to play this, like, I'm already playing like 3 Judgment and this, which is searchable. But if you want to play like a 2nd or a 3rd copy in the side, I wouldn't even blame you, just to like guarantee you're gonna at least blank 1, maybe even 2 of them. And then defeat's just awesome when you can end on like both of these plus Surreal plus Gorgonio. Like, how do you lose those duels? Or Gorgon, I guess her name. She's just Gorgon. The equip is Gorgonio, but yeah, that's it for the Evil Eyes traps. The rest of the generic traps, 3 impermanents. Pair this with the Ash and the Veilers. This has been my favorite hand trap lineup as of right now, because the Veilers and the impermanences can stop Verte Anaconda on people's follow-up plays, and Ash is just good at hitting anything, but also hitting like a lot of like weird utility cards that are just in the format right now, like Triple Tactics Talent, Gamma, saving your Surreal on field and allowing it to resolve, like all that stuff. So it's pretty good. It's just nice and versatile. Hits so many things. And then for the rest of the traps, we're on 3 Solemn Judgment, 2 Goes and Match, and 1 Skill Drain. Okay, quick explanations. Judgment, like I said before, like people have those haymakers, but it's also just a nice support card that negates like any one thing. It can negate the summon of a monster, or it's just negating any spell or trap, and that's really nice, because this deck definitely has holes, definitely has certain types of card effects that like it can't touch, and so Solemn Judgment just kind of seals up whatever card that whatever certain board you make doesn't hit, which is really nice. And then Goes and Match, just an insane floodgate at the moment. Even something like Dragon, like you're like, oh, like they're all Dark Dragons. Sort of, but they also want to go into Romulus. They also want to go into Needle Fiber. and like a Rorodon, or not, I don't know if they go Rorodon every time, but like, you know what I mean? Like they want to go other stuff. Yes, this will hinder them. This won't hinder them all the way. They can't go into spheres either. That's another big one. So they like, yes, they can go Boral Savage, and yes, I think they can. No, he's a Fiend. I was gonna say the Unchained Link, but they're definitely super hindered on what they can go into, and like. That means all you have to do is like pair one Disruption with Gozen Match, and like they definitely can't play through it. So I like that still. Infernoble, same thing. They're gonna put fires on the board, but Isold is a light, so they can't go into Isold. They can't go into Halki Fibrax, and they can like same thing as Dragon Link. They can still do some sort of plays, but it's not that good. Plus like the Alistair the Invoker is a dark, so if you flip this on him, they can't link off, and they won't be able to make a Makaba, and they also wouldn't be able to put Dogmatica stuff on the field, so that's pretty good as well. There's like, it works versus everything. It's not the greatest card going second, so that's why I'm only playing 2, so I'm just not committing. Like, I'm already playing Judgment, like it's another card that's just like not great going second, and Scale Drain. But if you want to play 3, that's up to you. It is a pretty good card. And then we have Skill Drain. This card's just so cool. Like, when you think about it, like, yes, Skill Drain will turn off, like, your Surziel's ability to pop, as well as, like, Gorgon's effect to negate and Medusa's effect to banish a card from grave. But if they're equipped with Selene, they will be non-targetable, indestructible, and they'll get the stat buff. And so many decks, like combo decks, just like lose to Skill Drain. But like no deck, it's just like no decks can play under Skill Drain, but this deck can. And also the fact that just like Selene gives itself back from grave like so easily just means like even if your opponent can out a Selene or a Surziel equipped with a Selene, all you have to do is put any other Evil Eye monster on board, and boom. That Selene can just like get itself back from grave like immediately. And so for that, I just think Skill Drain's such a haymaker. It's just going to win you a duel like every other time you draw it. And that to me was definitely worth putting it in the deck. But yeah, 40 cards in the main with a deck like this. I build a lot of decks like this, and I say this a lot, but like you just really want to see Surziel. You're only playing 7 copies of him, so you really want to keep it 40 because you just want to maximize your ability to find Surziel. That's pretty much it. All right, for the extra deck, not a whole lot going on here. 3 copies of Gorgon, Empress of the Evil Eye. She's awesome. If she's equipped with an equip spell, she has a quick effect to just negate any face-up monster on your opponent's side of the field. But then on your next standby phase, you have to pop a card she points to, which is really cool because I also would say you should probably side Kaijus for this deck because this deck is pretty cool with Kaijus because what you do is you put a Kaiju above Gorgonio, or Gorgon, you negate a monster during their turn, and then for your turn, you on your next standby, you can just like pop the Kaiju you gave them. So like they don't even get to like really make use of it. Or you could even going second like Kaiju them, summon this, negate the Kaiju on field, and then just even like make this live, and then on their standby like pop the Kaiju. You're just trying to make it so they don't get to even make use of the body, and that's kind of a cool interaction, I think. So yeah. 1 copy of Zerziel, Ruler of the Evil Eye. I have never made this card other than like to just style on somebody. Like seriously, this card doesn't come up because it's just like slightly better than Zerziel, and that's it. But like, why am I going to commit 3 materials worth into a monster that's like just kind of as good as like a normal summonable monster in the deck? Like, I don't get it. And then for these Nightmares, the reason I like Nightmares is the card that gives us 2 tokens actually only locks us into Fiends for the turn. So you can still go into all of these. And I thought that was like kind of cool. I almost thought about playing like the Unchained Link 4 because he's like one of the best like other than these guys like Fiend Link monsters that's generic. But like space wise and stuff, it just didn't work out. And if you want to play it, that's up to you. You know, go for it. Definitely don't be afraid to. But yeah, I'm just on these finishing up the Link monsters. And then for some weird stuff, we're on a ton of Super Poly targets. I know you were wondering, like, John, we didn't see Super Poly. Well, I'd probably side Super Poly in this format, specifically because you're, like, Dragon Link. Assuming Dragon Link is definably the best deck in the game, I think Super Poly is pretty necessary for that matchup. Other than the fact that, like, oh, they might rip it out of your hand, or they could Buster Lock you. It really depends on what kind of Dragon Link strategy they're on, but still, like, that deck's so scary. Like, you got to do what you can versus it. So if you think Super Poly can be the way, these are just some generic stuff, like you know, Salamangreat if it comes up. Also Salamangreat, no, not Salamangreat, sorry. This can be a bunch of different things. This could be Dragon Link. This could also be, what is it? You need 2 months with the same attribute, different types. So it doesn't really work versus Infernobles necessarily. I'm trying to think, but like there's other random matches. This goes up mainly versus like Dogmatica Invoked. Like a light Dogmatica plus like a Makaba. Just rip them both off the field. Dragostapelia, good versus like Dogmatica because they could have a fusion plus a dark. As well as, well, I guess Rockets don't really play, or Dragon Link doesn't really play fusions, but it could come up. I don't know. It's there. Trophy of Airtum, Dragon Link. If you resolve like a Super Poly into a Dragon Link board into this guy, like you just won the duel. And then Starving Venom, like again, like just the safe one. Any 2 darks. Yeah, nothing too crazy there, honestly. It's just there. There's really nothing important that Evil Eyes need to have in their extra deck, but if like Super Poly's good in the format, and I think it's better because Dragon Link's now like the best deck, it still works versus Invoke Dogmatica, and what else? It's not very good versus like Dinosaurs, but that's why it's in the side. You don't have to side it in. And then the last card I have is number 3, Cicada King. It's just a cool card. So there's like weird combos where like, depending on what you want to end on, you have like Surziel, you have Basilius and Kato Blapos, and you had like a search for equip. So like you have him equipped with this, and you're gonna do a search, but you're like, I want to have protection from like the spell and trap wipes. So I'm gonna grab Retribution, and then I'm gonna set that, but you still just have like these on the field. Right? I'm just like, I just wanted to rank 3 so that I could, 1, do this, and like still make a disruption, even though I wanted like the spell and trap negate, I have the special summon monster pop, and I have a monster negate on field. It's actually pretty good. But also, Kato Blapos is one of those effects where like he banishes himself when he leaves the field next. So when he's used as Exceed material, he actually just still goes back to grave, and then he's still an extender next turn, which is pretty cool. And I thought that was like kind of a cool interaction. So you could play this, you could play like Bamboozling Gossip Shadow, you could play a bunch of different like rank 3s. It's really up to you. But Cicada King is like a cool new card, and I think he's like fine. He's kind of just like an impermanence. It's like when a monster's special summon, like negate it, target and negate it, like. It's fine. It's not an amazing disruption, but like paired with other disruptions, it can like just be overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like that right there was like 3 disruptions, which is pretty good for like a combo out of Evil Eye, you know? But yeah, that's pretty much it for us here, guys. I don't want to ramble too much, like trying to keep these around 15 minutes. We're already closing in on 20. That's it for the Evil Eye deck profile. Hopefully you guys liked it. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think there's any changes you would throw in here. I'm definitely always taking advice on these because, you know, I'm just one dude building these decks by myself. So, you know, outside advice is definitely appreciated. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe for more deck profiles from me in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.